Welcome to another episode of The Unseen Paranormal, where some of the scariest things are unseen. I'm your host, Eric Freeman.
All right, we have in the green room, I'm assuming they're ready. Let's see if they smile at me. I have Eric and Brandon sitting backstage. They are smiling. That sounds like they're ready. At 3:30, we have the Unseen Paranormal. Eric and Brandon, I'm going to bring them up a little bit early, see if they're ready to go. How's it going, guys?
Good. How are you?
Good. Are you ready? You want me to just get out of the way and let you get right to your thing?
We can do it.
All right, here we go.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Unseen Paranormal Podcast, a special live stream. Today, we're live streaming with Brandon Alvis. He has been a paranormal investigator for many, many years, paranormal researcher, and you may know him from A&E's Ghost Hunters. How you doing today, Brandon?
I'm well, Eric. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. So I'm really thankful that you come for this awesome live stream. Hopefully people are tuning in. So like I said, you've been a paranormal investigator for many, many years and a paranormal researcher, and you've been on TV, but you're very serious about what you do. And you've been playing around with some awesome new equipment. And let's talk a little bit about how you got into being a paranormal investigator to begin with, and we'll get into all the rest of the stuff.
Absolutely. Well, my interest in the paranormal began at a very young age. In 1995, I lost my oldest brother to cancer. And in 2004, I lost another brother to suicide. So that kind of set me on my journey into the unexplained. And it's never really been about ghostly experiences for me, per se. It's been more about the scientific side of it. Is there an ultimate transition? Is there a possible life after death? And actually, before I ever stepped foot in the field, I reached out to medical doctors, engineers, scientists, people from various technical industries that help me remain grounded in scientific principle. And they've really helped me build the research that I conduct to this day. And that's from a very logical, unbiased point of view. And my goal is to find the truth, to see if there's actually some kind of phenomena taking place associated with a life after death.
Yeah. And so how did you get involved with Ghost Hunters to be on the TV show?
Well, funny enough, in the
Nope, I think we lost audio with Brandon.
Let's see, my back here. My back. Sorry about that.
There we go.
Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. So, I've been in the field for 16 years, and it's been something I've been very passionate about. And I've been lucky to work with some of the best investigators out there. And my name came through for Ghost Hunters, and they asked me to come down to Los Angeles. I live not too far from LA, and they asked me to come down and speak to them about a new show. And at the time, I had no idea it was Ghost Hunters, which is really exciting because I'm a big fan. Something I've been watching since I was in high school. And they asked me to come down and speak with them, and they wanted me to be the guy to come out and provide a new methodology, to provide that scientific edge, that scientific aspect. And it's been an amazing journey.
Yeah, and you've caught some amazing evidence with a new piece of equipment, like I was saying, the electron multiplying camera. Talk a little bit about that, and you even had a NASA scientist kind of back some of the evidence.
Absolutely. Again, my point of view, my side of the paranormal research is going out there from a scientific principle, a very logical point of view. And I've been very lucky to have equipment like the EMCCD camera, the electron multiplying camera, provided to us to go out there and test these scientific theories in our realm, in the paranormal realm. And one of the questions I had for my scientific consultants was, if ghosts are real, they are manifesting, how would that take place from your scientific opinion? And they threw out the term photon events. And that's something that's observed by NASA, something that's observed by multiple scientists throughout the universe, throughout the world. And I had this camera provided to me, and I actually took that and adapted that into our research. And we've had amazing results that to this day cannot be explained by our consultants or by us. And what's exciting about that is now we have the possible matter associated with what we perceive to be ghosts or spirits, whatever you want to call them. And now I'm actively testing this paranormal photon theory throughout the country and going to various places that are reported to be haunted, where people have these visual experiences. And I'm utilizing this device, and we've had some great results, and I can't wait to continue that and see if that theory provides even more results.
Yeah, and you had a couple of instances on the show where y'all caught full body apparitions with this camera, and and it was just amazing that and for scientists not to be able to explain, where that came from. They can't say that it's not a ghost or not paranormal. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's been unreal. Again, 16 years I've been doing this, and I've had a handful of instances where we've captured something that can't be explained. But providing this new technology, having these scientific consultants and the resources behind A&E and the show Ghost Hunters really pushed that forward. And actually, we had some tremendous breakthroughs.
Yeah, and having that platform to kind of put that out there and have that evidence put out there is pretty amazing. And so, like you said, you've been investigating for a long, long time. What is your opinion on the paranormal, and where do you think spirits and ghosts come from? I know there's lots of theories out there, but what do you think of all the things you've seen?
It's tough. The jury's still out, in my opinion. I'm still a natural skeptic. I'm always trying to find that empirical evidence and that data to back up anything that's, being experienced. So it's one thing to go into a location and have something happen that's a personal experience. It's another thing to actually have this data and empirical evidence that can be tested by a third party. But if I, go with the theory that energy is neither created nor destroyed, and our brains, our bodies are made up completely of energy. And what happens to that energy when we die? What happens to that energy? Does it retain consciousness? That's the question I have. And is that what we perceive to be ghosts and hauntings? Possibly. But again, that's one common thing we all share in humanity as people, and that's death. And that's, I think, one thing that can kind of unite us all in a way.
Yeah. And with doing all the investigations, whether it's one on the show or one that you just had being an investigator, what's some of your favorite places that you've been to and investigated?
Oh, I have to say probably the RMS Queen Mary is in my top 5 for sure. Fort Stanton in New Mexico is up there as well. Clifton, Arizona. Man, I've been to 48 states in this country, actually 49 states in this country now, investigating the paranormal. One left to check off, that's Hawaii. Haven't been there to investigate yet. But man, I've been to so many places, and I'd have to say probably the RMS Queen Mary really sticks out. Fort Stanton, Clifton, Arizona, Haines, Alaska. Been to some amazing locations with amazing history and some really unexplainable things going on.
Yeah, yeah. And we were talking about the electron multiplying camera. Is that one of the best pieces of evidence you ever caught, or have you caught something more substantial than that?
It's up there. I also captured a piece of footage in the winter of 2008 on the RMS Queen Mary in the first class pool changing stalls with just a infrared DV camera, digital video camera back in the days of tape, mini DV tape. And that's really interesting. That's actually a piece of footage that got some of my scientific consultants involved with working with me, is because they had no explanation for it. We even went back and tried to recreate it and trying to find a natural explanation for it. And to this day, we still can't find one. So that piece of footage, along with what we've captured with the electron multiplying camera, are definitely right there. But the beauty of the electron multiplying camera and that scientific aspect is the fact that we have a possible understanding of the mechanics and the particular matter associated with what we perceive to be ghosts and hauntings. Is it a completely natural explanation? Possibly. But it definitely shows up in a very strange way. And it's definitely something that our scientific consultants have yet to come up with a conclusion.
Yeah. And what you've been to many different places, many famous places. What's on your bucket list to investigate in the future?
Man, the White House is up there. It's very unlikely that's going to happen, but the history associated with a place like that is unreal. There's always something I refer to as the formula of a haunting that is always the makeup of these places that have activity. And there's always a huge historical aspect that's associated with that. And something that actually will be highlighted in my upcoming book with Mustafa Gadalari in 2021. He's also on Ghost Hunters. The White House is one of them. The Tower of London is another place. And there's so many there's so many hidden gems and forgotten places in our own country that have yet to even be discovered. I mean, these small little pockets throughout our country that have these amazing locations that have just been forgotten by time. So who knows what'll pop up in the next 5 years.
Yeah, and that's what I like to do with my show is talk to a lot of historians and even some of the people that run some of these smaller historical places and put out some of the lesser known locations that people haven't heard about. And also in this time of like with the corona and stuff, they're having a hard time because they're all nonprofits, not for profits, and they rely on people coming and tourists coming. And now that they don't have that, I find that a lot of them are opening up to paranormal investigators now because it's a good way, to do a public event, ghost hunt. You can do it with small groups, but they can still make money.
Right.
And so that's what I try to do with my show is kind of highlight some of the smaller places people never heard of, because on TV with like ghost hunters and stuff, everybody's seen Waverly Hills, and like you talked about the Queen Mary. If you're kind of into the paranormal, watching all the shows, you've seen lots of those famous places that become famous because of all the shows go there. But yeah, I try to highlight some of the smaller stuff, and there's really interesting stories with a lot of the smaller places too. It doesn't have to be a big, huge, famous place to have really interesting history and stories. And I like to talk about the history as well as the haunting, because I think they go hand in hand. And I think the history part is very important with the paranormal and doing your research.
Absolutely. No, it's 100% true. And, that avenue, the paranormal is the perfect avenue for these historical locations, because people that are usually not typically interested in history like the paranormal aspect. And if they
Yeah.
come to a location because of the paranormal, the history, like you said, goes hand in hand with that. So it's the perfect avenue for these locations that were already in a bad place before the pandemic. It's very unfortunate because historical locations and the funding associated with that's always been, kind of a struggle. And now it's even worse. So this aspect, the paranormal, is a perfect way to bring in new knowledge, new viewership, and some revenue for these, historical locations that really need it.
So you were talking about the book that you did with Mustafa Gadalori, and I had the chance to talk to him a while back. Great guy, really had a good conversation with him. So what is your book going to be about? What kind of content is it, and when can we expect to see it out?
I can't give too much information at the moment, but it'll be in 2021, later 2021, and it is associated with our cases that we worked not only on ghost hunters, but prior to ghost hunters. And it really goes in depth about ethics, protocol, methodology, and some really new, fresh ideas that we really haven't seen in the paranormal field, which I think is going to be a breath of fresh air, because a lot of what we see now is the same thing, rinse and repeat,
Yeah.
all the same methodology, all the same protocol. People watch the shows and they mimic their investigations and model themselves after these shows. And we know that 99% of these people in these shows are doing it for pure entertainment purposes. There's really
Right.
no science behind it. There's really no genuine research. It's just doing what they can to make sure they get another season and to make sure they have a career out of it, which can be a very dangerous position, because you have so many people that watch these shows and they take it as gospel and they mimic that, and it can be very dangerous. So I think that it's going to provide some new ideas, some realism in a lot of ways, and I think we're very excited to get that out.
Yeah, and I've saw you tease on social media, so I don't think you'll talk about this too much, but I saw you tease a documentary coming up next year too.
Absolutely. Mustafa and I are working on that as well. It kind of goes hand in hand with the book, which is interesting. So we're working on something, we're very excited about, something that it's been a 16-year journey for myself, and a lot of new ideas, a lot of archive footage, a lot of never before seen moments, and working with some of the top scientists in the world, which is going to be very exciting for this field.
Yeah, and you talk a lot about the scientific method, and that's kind of how you approach. So just to elaborate on that a little more, can you explain to everybody how your approach is different than what they see on TV? And you were talking about the same old things like with voice recorders and spirit boxes, but how is your approach different than those type of people that you see and people are mimicking themselves after?
Right. It comes down to a very simple statement that I learned from my mentor and scientific consultant, Dr. Harry Clore. He's the only person in history to receive 2 PhDs simultaneously in any discipline. He's a close friend of mine, a colleague, someone I work with closely in this space in the paranormal field. And he always said this, and it always rang true with me and something I stick to. If the phenomena is real, we should be able to document it with a scientific instrument. It's as
Yeah.
simple as that. No garage tech, no using these devices that are clearly built for false positives, using these devices that are clearly built for entertainment purposes to really show people that they're going to find what they already believe, which again is another dangerous way of thinking. So for us and for myself, it's all about going out there, following the scientific method, finding what's your theory, your hypothesis, what are you trying to achieve, what are you trying to document, what is the purpose of your investigation. And again, it all comes down to the fact, if the phenomena is real, we should be able to document it with a scientific instrument. We collect that data, We have that data analyzed by a third party. We open ourselves up to that scientific scrutiny, and that's what I think the field should really look at.
Yeah, yeah, and because you got all these devices out there like spirit boxes and that type stuff that scan through radio frequencies and that, but that's such a fallible method because you can have, you know, the voices coming through. I mean, obviously it's scanning radio stations, so you can have voices coming through, and it might be just be a coincidence that it said something that's relevant to what you're asking at the time, and like the other some of the other equipment too. I've always been a skeptical believer, what I call myself, kind of like you were saying you're a skeptic as well. So what do you think when you have something like that and then you have an EVP? I mean, you got multiple things backing it up. I mean, what do you think about using those as instruments in that way instead of it just as a standalone, like the spirit boxes, that type stuff, but having, what do you think if you have multiple pieces? What do you think about that?
It's interesting. You know, I think that anytime you're out there trying to collect, you know, empirical evidence or data, you have to try and back up and correlate with multiple devices. I think that's kind of a must, and something that should, you know, be utilized. So for instance, when we use the EMCCD camera, we always have that backed up with an infrared camera, and they're shooting down the exact same corridor, hallway, wherever we're shooting, just to have what I call a control camera or a control device. But unfortunately, you know, with something like the Spirit Box, if you were to take that to an audio engineer, to a third party, and they take that into a spectrum analysis and they break that down to try and give you a natural explanation, it's purely contaminated because it's all radio frequencies. So that's something, unfortunately, that would have to be thrown out from a scientific point of view, or from a, you know, empirical evidence or data point of view. Maybe it could be a coincidence. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, but, you know, highly improbable that you would get something on a spirit box and then on an audio recorder,
Yeah.
you know, independently that correlate. Maybe it happens. I'd like to see it. That'd be very interesting to see. But it's tough. It's tough. It's you know, from the point of view of empirical evidence and data, those radio frequencies is pure contamination, and something, you know, in my opinion, and I think from the opinion of science, can't be taken seriously.
Yeah, and a lot of people are going, and a lot of people want to go the route of like technology and electronics in investigating. What do you think about using, you know, taking a step back and going back to like old film, you know, magnetic tape, that type stuff? Because if spirits are, you know, can manipulate electromagnetic fields and energy, then my opinion, I think that it would be easier for them to manipulate, like, you know, old cassette tape, like magnetic tape or video cassette tape.
Absolutely. That's something that I've experimented with many times over the years. The whole idea of, you know, electromagnetic radiation and electromagnetic energy is interesting. And having that tape, you know, like you said, from an audio or visual standpoint, is very interesting. And again, that all can be tested, that all can be looked at. And that's what's the most important part of this, you know, situation. Instead of using these devices that are clearly built for the purpose of trying to find a ghost, we are using something that is proven technology and something that can be tested by that third party, something that can be opened up to scrutiny. So yeah, absolutely, tape, go with it, because you can have that really looked at. Has it been altered? Has it been messed with? Is there a natural explanation as to why the tape has picked up something anomalous? That's interesting to me. Absolutely.
So what is some of the weirdest things that you've come across in your years in the paranormal?
Oh, the people. You know, there's been a few things I've experienced that are very strange from a, you know, paranormal supernatural standpoint, whatever you want to say. But man, there's been times that the people are just a bit out there, right? A bit strange. So like we were in Clifton, Arizona, for instance, and we actually had to call the cops on a person because they were
Wow.
threatening us physically with violence because we were in their town and they didn't want us there. And so that would be the more strange things, is being in those situations where you have people that just, they don't want to talk about the paranormal aspect of their life, their society, where they live, and that can be kind of scary sometimes.
Yeah. And a lot of people I've talked to, I don't know if you've noticed this, but up north, it seems to not be as big a topic as it is in the South. And a lot of the guests that I've talked to, authors and historians, they think it's because, you know, in the Appalachian Mountains and in the South, you have this history of, you know, word of mouth stories handed down and that type of stuff. Have you noticed there be a difference in different parts of the country about people willing to talk about the paranormal and even being open about the paranormal?
Absolutely. I think that also not only in the country, but from a cultural belief system as well. You think about places like Japan, where they just, ghosts are real. They exist. There's no if, ands, or buts about it. They even have what they call spirit houses they put out in front of their property to give a home to the spirits. So you think about that. So culturally, there's some belief systems that are just that's what it is. Ghosts are real. Spirits are everyday part of life. But then you go to other places that have that different belief system, like you were saying up north, where it's more skeptical, not as religious based, not as uh, culturally based. So you see that there is a huge difference in these places, absolutely. And I think that's what makes it even more interesting is when you go to these places where people are more on the fence or don't really believe, and you go into these locations and you capture something significant, and to see the look on those people's faces, and to see that
Yeah.
their mind kind of change in that moment is always interesting.
Yeah, I just think it's weird when you go, like you were talking about different cultures, but how different just within the United States you have all these different types of people, and some people believe. And I've had with doing the podcast and with being an investigator, I'm sure you've had this too, but lots of people come up and be like, "Well, I don't believe in ghosts, but here's my ghost story." And that seems to be a
Exactly.
big thing with people. They're skeptical, but here's my ghost story. You don't believe them, but you can't explain this. I always found that interesting.
Absolutely. Happens more often than not, really. Everyone's got a ghost story of some kind. And even the most staunch skeptics and non-believers always, hey, this one time. It's always starts with, hey, this
Yeah,
one time.
yeah. So, any other projects coming up? The documentary and the book kind of going hand in hand. What else are you working on? Because Ghost Hunters is kind of on a hiatus. Don't know if it's coming back or not.
Right. Mustafa and I work very closely with each other. Him and I, since we started working on Ghost Hunters, really hit it off. Very like-minded. We both work very hard. We're constantly bouncing ideas off of each other. But yeah, so we're got this book coming out, which we're very excited about, and this documentary as well, which is going to be very exciting. And we'll see what else happens. We have a lot of stuff in the works, but those are the two main projects that are really aimed for 2021.
Yeah, and have you been doing investigations? I know COVID kind of put a damper on a lot of that, but have you been doing investigations since y'all been off air with the Ghost Hunters?
I have. I've been lucky enough to go out to the Queen Mary with the Dark Zone, which is a very great online event series that happens periodically throughout the pandemic. And I was able to actually go onto the RMS Queen Mary when it was completely empty. No one
Wow.
on the ship, which was very, very exciting. And I took the EMCCD camera, put it in the engine room, and we actually captured a very exciting piece of evidence there. So yeah, I've been doing a few private investigations here as well. So it's been tough with the pandemic, but we're staying safe and healthy, and keeping a very small crew and doing all the testing, all that kind of stuff, and going out there and trying to find answers for people. And it's been slow, but we've conducted a few investigations since this whole thing kicked off.
And one of the big questions, and you kind of made headlines a couple months ago about Ghost Hunters, but when I talked to Mustafa, he seems to think that it's going to come back for all the fans that love the show. I love the show. I've watched Ghost Hunters like you have, from the beginning, the original iteration of it, and then the A&E reiteration. But Mustafa thought that it was going to come back because y'all did Alien Con, and
Yeah,
so
right.
so what is your sense of it now?
I think it's not going to happen. I have said that many
Yeah.
times. I've been in the television business for many years. I was a promotions producer and commercial producer for ABC, CBS, and Fox Television for a number of years. Um, it's tough, man. It's not an easy genre. You have a channel that's completely dedicated to it, and Travel Channel, which all the shows are virtually the same thing. It's a very competitive market, and they seem to want the same product over and over, and we are
Yeah.
not that product in any way, shape, or form. So I don't see it, but who knows? Stranger things have happened.
Right. Right. Well, and I've always respected Ghost Hunters because of the way that y'all have always conducted investigations. Because you might have a whole episode where you don't, I know y'all film for days at a time for one 45-minute episode or whatever, but y'all might put an episode out where you don't find anything,
Mhm.
and you have all these other shows that everywhere they go it seems to be a demon or somebody's getting
Yeah.
possessed, something crazy, and it's. But I always respected Ghost Hunters because from the very beginning, when it was on Sci-Fi Channel, okay, well, this is just one where we didn't catch anything.
Right. And it's funny to see that the people that were originally involved with that original show completely did a 180 because their new shows are they find something every time.
Yeah.
But you know, with the new version of Ghost Hunters that we did on A&E, that spirit was still there, and I think there was a fresh eye and a fresh mindset on that. And if you think back to, you know, on season 1, we did the Oakville. In Oakville, Illinois, we did the original Springs Hotel. We didn't find anything there. All we found was natural explanations to what they were experiencing with natural infrasound and high EMF that was radiating through this very conductive water. So we found, you know, that these people were being affected by temporal lobe activity, where they were having what they thought were ghostly experiences, but were very much just natural explanations. So that's something we stick to, and that's always the first thing to look into in any investigation: is what is the natural explanation to what could be going on in these places. And I feel like that's been lost on 99% of the shows, and it's very unfortunate because, like I said before, it's a dangerous precedent to set, because you have so many people, millions of people out there that see this and they mimic it, and they're taking that into people's private homes, private businesses, and just giving
Right.
false information. And man, it's not about entertainment, it's not about money. There's some people out there that really need help, and I think that,
Yeah.
man, it's tough.
Yeah, like you said, you know, going into people's private homes and that type stuff. And then one of the things I've noticed investigating, especially private homes, I've done a few, and these people, they automatically go to something demonic, something evil, that type of stuff because of what they've seen on TV. And I think that's dangerous too, because people are automatically scared because something they can't explain happened in their house. But because of what they've seen on TV, it's automatically bad, you know. And I think I've always said that, you know, people who are bad in life, they're going to be bad in death, you know, and they were once people too. So if you subscribe to that, spirit is a person who's died and crossed a different plane, then, you know, you got good people and you got bad people. And what makes you think they're going to change from one carnation to the next, you know?
Right, and I think that's a quote Peter James used a lot. You know, the famous psychic from Sightings years ago on Fox. He used to say, "As in life, as in death," which is something I think that rings true. You know, if there is a consciousness that survives death in some way, shape, or form, I don't see why that would change. You know,
Yeah.
who knows? Who knows? But it's tough out there with the landscape of the genre in the field, because it's just such the same thing over and over, the same locations, just like you mentioned before, same locations, same people, the same faces we've seen for a decade, all going out there doing the same thing. And it's definitely time for a change. And I think there's no better way to make that change than 2020, with all this crazy stuff that's happened and so many lives being affected. Maybe it's time to, you know, take a larger look at the content, at the genre, at the field, and what we've been doing for so many years, because it's clearly not working.
Right. And that's why I wanted to talk to you today, because you're bringing in scientists and trying to bring that scientific part into it. And, you know, you're not trying to tell people what they want to hear, because some people, unfortunately, some locations that y'all go to, I'm sure you've seen this, where they want you to find stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They want, because they want that notoriety and that tourism that comes from the paranormal. And so to be on a show like Ghost Hunters, I don't know if y'all experienced anybody trying to fake anything on the show, like a business trying to fake it, you know, to get y'all, to get that name out there for themselves. But yeah, people do some crazy stuff.
Oh yeah, no, it happens a lot. You know, more often than not, or even people just making up false stories about a location, for that tourism, to bring in that revenue, to generate that revenue, and it's not from a good place. You know what I mean? It's not because they
Yeah.
want a historical restoration. It's not because they want to save a building. It's about their own ego, for money and power, and in strange ways like that. And that's kind of been the dominating thing in this genre, in this field, for a while now. Is it's become such a power struggle. It's very strange. We've strayed so far away from that human curiosity. You know,
Yeah.
what happens after death? Is there a life after death? And I think that's really been lost these days. And I think it's very much been lost with these shows that you see, because there's no human element to it anymore. It's about the ego of these people on these shows. It's about
Yeah.
the notoriety. It's about the money. It's about the longevity of being on television, which, who cares, man? I mean, I guess if you want to feed your own ego, great, but it's not going to benefit the field or the genre in any way, shape, or form. And that's something I stand up against constantly. It doesn't make me popular by any means, but I frankly don't care. because I want to tell the truth. I want to find the truth. Not only I want to feed my own personal curiosity, but for those people out there that experience loss like I did, losing 2 brothers at a young age, I want to know what happened. I think that a lot of people in this country want to know the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of those people, like you're saying, with their egos are playing on those people's real loss and tragedy in their lives. Well,
Yeah.
I thank you so much for coming on. We're running out of time here. Where can people keep up with you on social media? And you have a website and all that. So where can people find you to find out about the book and the new documentary coming up next year?
Any updates will be on my website, brandonjalvis.com. All my social media is at Brandon Alvis. So I'm constantly posting on there my ideas, my opinions, as well as upcoming projects. And we're really excited about 2021. Can't wait to get the book out there.
Well, you keep doing what you're doing. I'm a huge fan of it, and especially bringing the scientific method in and trying to prove it scientifically instead of just, like you said, doing the same thing over and over again. Isn't that the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, man.
All right, Brandon, you have a good day.
Thanks, man.
Hey, that was awesome, Eric. Thank you so much. The comments are going crazy. A lot of questions from the audience. I didn't want to interrupt or anything. I let you run the whole time. I didn't want to get too much into you, but check the comments. Some people, maybe you could reply to some of them in the comments on Facebook. But that was a great session, very informative, and really nice to see that side of it.
Yeah, I thought about taking questions and looking at questions, but he's such an interesting guy and he has a lot to say. Yeah. And so I wanted to take the opportunity to get that message out there and have people check him out, because he's not just one of those people from TV. And that's why I talked to Mustafa a few weeks ago as well, because they're really serious about what they're doing and they're not trying to feed their ego like we were talking about.
Yeah, it was great. Even here, like the more scientific approach to things and having the data backing it up. You don't hear that on some of those other shows that, I don't know if you referenced them or not, but it was kind of his data, his approach seems much more different than how other people are doing it. That was very interesting.
All right. Well, thank y'all for having me. I hope everybody else enjoyed it as well.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Eric. We will see you.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Join us next time for a new episode of The Unseen Paranormal. Until then, check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or at our website, unseenparanormalpodcast.com. And don't forget to like, review, rate, and share with all your friends. Thank you to my friend Chris Lips for the awesome theme music. Listen to our theme song and more of his music at chrislipsmusic.com. And remember, some of the scariest things are unseen.